So, since you clicked on this video, chances are you want to learn how to make cool, professional looking videos, but you just don't know how to start or where to start. Maybe you want to make some cool adventure, travel type videos like Sam Colder or J.R. Ali, or you just want to make some vlogs like Casey Neistat. No matter what it is, by the end of this lesson, you will have the essential key to start making cool videos, especially when it comes to editing them. Now, what is that essential key, you might ask? Well, drum roll. It's keyframing. For those of you who know what keyframing is and understand its principles, this video is not for you. This video is mostly for people who do not understand keyframing and how it works. So yeah, if you know how to keyframe, I suggest skipping along this video until I give you some more advice. Now, to those of you who don't understand keyframing, it's very hard to explain exactly what it is, but it's easiest to demonstrate it. So right here, I'm using After Effects, but you can do this in any software you chose. If you want to use Vegas or if you want to use Premiere, they all pretty much have the mechanic of keyframing. So I have this footage of this lady just taking pictures of food and things like that. So let's say I wanted to zoom in, right? And when I say zooming in, what I mean is in this editing software, I want to make it look like I was actually sitting there when I was filming. I was trying to zoom in with the camera when I actually did not. I'm just using an effect to do that, right? So you would think I would just have to go to the scale of this video, which is basically how big the video is, and I would just zoom in, right? But see, it remains stationary. We do not actually show the camera zooming in. We want to animate it, right? So let's go back to the beginning and reset this to 100. You will see the stopwatch here. Most keyframing or keyframe symbols are stopwatches, and when you click them, they show you the keyframe here. This is what it looks like. Depending on the app, they might vary, but usually they're like a diamond shape, right? So let's go back. Also, I am using Adobe After Effects, and that's the software I'm most comfortable with, but you can use anything like I mentioned earlier. Let's say I want to act like I zoomed in when I was standing there, right? I would click on the stopwatch, and that will basically start the keyframe process. So I start off with 100, and let's say I skip along to where I want the zooming in to happen. Let's say it takes 2 seconds for me to zoom in, right? I would add another keyframe here that zooms in. Now notice, as I go back to the beginning, we are back at our default size, which is 100, right? But as I play it, notice how it starts zooming in, and then it stops, right? Let's say I want it to be a slower zooming, right? So I would drag this out. See, it takes longer to zoom in. So how keyframes work, basically each keyframe has values stored in them, right? If I zoom in here, if I click on this keyframe, this holds the value of 100, right? If I go to this one, this is the end keyframe, right? This is the end of the zooming effect. So it holds the amount 141. Now I can change that and it will overwrite whatever keyframe I'm currently hovering on, right? But here's the thing. Now if I go anywhere else, and then let's say I put it back to 100. Let's say we zoom out, right? Notice how it creates a new keyframe because I made a change. Any change you make, as long as the stopwatch is on, any change you make adds a new keyframe with a new value in it because I've changed the value, right? Every time I change a value, it makes a new keyframe automatically. I think this is how it works with other software, but in After Effects, that's for sure how it works, or with Adobe products in general. So yeah, now let's watch this again. Zooms in, then zooms out, right? It's easier to see with the highlights. It zooms in, and then zooms out. So notice how between those keyframes, the values change, right? It goes to 107, whatever it is. That is because the program is forcing this scale effect to change into this keyframe that we added here. What I mean is, as long as you have keyframes with different values at different times, the program will force this effect to change to that keyframe in between. So if I go from this keyframe, I can notice how it's zooming back out. You see the numbers are getting smaller and smaller until I hit 100. And that is the basics of keyframing. A keyframe basically holds a value of an effect. So you can do this with any effect, not just scale. So let me just delete these, which goes back to 100. We can use this with any other effect. So let's go to effect, and I'll choose a random effect. We can go add generate light burst, right? So as soon as I add this, notice how the image changes, and that's because that's what the effect does. We can look at the values here, right? This right here is added to my layer. So the ray length, as soon as I change it, it changes the way the image looks, right? It gives you a ray, and that's the effect basically. It's kind of like a car going fast or something like that. So let me put it back to 0, which basically means it's not doing anything right now. So let's go and keyframe this, right? I'll click on the stopwatch. Right now it's not doing anything. It can show up here. I press U and it shows you any effect that has a stopwatch on. As soon as you press U, it shows you what it has. So once you click the stopwatch, you'll have the keyframe set wherever your timeline was on, or your cursor. So let's say now I want to go to 55 seconds or whatever it is, what number it is, and I will drag this up, right? So notice how it starts off normal, and then as I play, the rays get longer and longer until it hits this keyframe. So notice this keyframe right here holds the value 38, and this holds 0. So whatever happens in between, it has to go from 0 to 38, right? You see this? It progresses until it hits 38. And then the ray length gets longer and longer. So if I play it, it goes from normal, and then hits 38. And that is the basics of keyframing. You can do way more with keyframes, and I'm sure there are a lot of tutorials, but this is not supposed to be an advanced guide on how to use keyframes. It's just to understand the fundamentals, how they work on the most basic level. After understanding the basics of keyframing, you can imagine the endless possibilities you can do with it. Right before this video, I shot some clips of me just walking towards a wall and then moving the camera towards a laptop screen. I've added some keyframes. Now, these look different, but that's not important for now. I made some keyframes for time remapping. What that basically means is I manipulated the speed of this video, or of these videos, and I slapped them together. And notice what I did. I made a cool looking transition with the most basic clips you can think of. And then if I add some sound effects, right? I just slapped this on like 5 minutes before this video. If you want to see better examples, you can see my other videos, and all of these relied on keyframing. All these clips specifically. You have this. So you can do so much. There's another one here. Play it again. I basically use a crap ton of keyframes, but it's not hard. It's just planning out what you want to do with them, what effects you want to use, how you want it to look, how you want to animate. Keyframing is the most fundamental tool a video editor possesses. It is so powerful if you know how to use it and manipulate it. But I have some other tips for you guys. Tip number 1, watch tutorials. This is very crucial, and that's how I started learning how to make videos. I actually started a long time ago, back in 2011, 2012, and I was very young. I was, 12, 13. It was really helpful. You can learn quicker instead of experimenting all day long and understanding how you can achieve a certain effect. I'm not saying don't experiment. I'm just saying there are some things that are easier to find online than to experiment yourself. Tip number 2. Don't just watch tutorials, follow the tutorials. And what I mean is, don't just watch and be like, yeah, oh, I get what he's trying to say. What I'm asking you to do is have your own footage or your own session open and then try to follow the person. but don't just imitate, right? Add your own spin on it. What I mean is, whatever effect that you're watching and learning, do it differently. Don't do it exactly the way the person is, especially when you know how to keyframe at that point, right? Tip number 3, watch tutorials in which the person provides footage. If you don't have your own footage and you still want to follow, it's better to find tutorials in which the person who uploads the tutorial provides the same footage that he's using in the video. And my last tip is stick to one program. I would highly recommend Adobe After Effects, since I've used many others like Premiere and Vegas, and I found After Effects to be the best. It is definitely easier than you think, but it still has a learning curve. You can always start with Sony Vegas. That's another recommendation I would give you guys. That's what I used for a long time, but eventually I would suggest moving to After Effects. These are the tips I have for today. Let me know what you guys want to see in the future, what kind of tutorial you want to see on specific effects. For instance, I have this clip right here which shows a video I worked on using my iPhone and I edited on After Effects, and they're just transitions basically. Sorry, it's kind of loud. Let me lower the volume. But yeah. So if you want to learn how to make transitions like that, they're super easy. Like I said, I've shot this whole video with my phone. All the footage came from my phone, which is an iPhone. And I basically just stitched all the footage together with keyframes. So if you guys want to learn how to make these easy transitions without using any transition pack, let me know. But that's all I have for today. Remember to like the video and subscribe, and let me know in the description what you guys want to see in tutorials. I will mostly be using After Effects though, so if that's what you guys are using, then perfect. I'll see you guys in the next one.